Hi, it's Joe Mazumdar of Exploration Insights at the Metals Investment Forum, the pre-PDAC edition in Toronto. And with me right now is David Lotan, the chairman of Aurion Resources.
Hey,
Dave,
Joe.
how's it going?
How you doing?
So Aurion Resources, Finland-focused, grassroots explorer, precious, and now it seems maybe a little bit of base metals in the Central Lapland Belt of northern Finland. And originally, a lot of the work was done in the sedimentary units where you were seeing a lot of high-grade nuggety gold, which I saw just when I was up there last time. But now, because of the discovery of Ikkari by Rupert Resources, which is, 3.9 million ounces of about 2 grams underground and open pit, you've now switched your exploration program between a joint venture that you have with B2Gold, which follows the same trend to the west.
Yes.
But this whole structure comes back around onto your Risti property.
It does.
Which is 100% owned. So maybe you can go through what you guys are doing. And B2Gold is obviously the operator on their stuff and what you're doing on yours.
Sure. So when Mike made his original discovery, Mike Basha, the founder of the company, it was a surface discovery in these giant fragments of quartz veins with visible gold on them. And they were in the sedimentary basin, which is between the margins of the mafic and ultramafic contacts. And it was impossible to ignore. I mean, you've seen these things. They were the size of small cars. They had lots of high-grade gold on them. And we drilled into the source. And indeed, we do have something which perhaps will one day be a gold deposit there, but it was geometrically complicated and we thought would have an incredibly high drill density, much like these Abitibi projects, which are multi-100,000-meter drill campaigns, and many of them without producing a resource.
They do produce a resource, but they don't produce a mine.
Correct, yes, sadly. So we recognized that there was that risk with all the gold we were finding in the sedimentary domains, and that was concurrent with the discovery of Ikkari, which is in the mafics and ultramafics on the margin of our sedimentary basin. And Ikkari, of course, became 4 million ounces in only 36,000 meters of drilling, and that is the dream of all junior mining companies.
And the big thing about it was the continuity of the mineralization.
Incredibly continuous, both in grade, geometrically very simple. And I think that that was the moment where we decided, well, we need to put significant work into those rocks on our ground. And that was going to be a very grueling process. Geophysics and base tills don't make for good press releases. And so you were going to put millions of dollars into a very long process, but it seemed like the right thing to do. We're relatively skilled, I think, in raising money and in dealing with the capital markets versus the rest of the juniors. So we thought that we could probably manage the balance sheet, even though it might be a vacuum or into a vacuum of press releases. And now it's finally bearing fruit.
Right. During my site visit, one thing that I did note was how like all the groups, you, Aurion, B2Gold, and also Rupert Resources, went to dinner together, and we all got along. And B2Gold went out of their way to show a lot of investors who are actually investing in Aurion and Rupert what they were doing, and they're being very open. And in the end of the day, they were sort of telling me that outside of Mali, which is a big exploration program, this was their biggest grassroots exploration program. So, what exactly is B2 doing on their ground?
Yeah, no, it's wonderful that the three companies are working well together. Obviously, the Ikkari discovery is very close to the border, and the discovery that B2 has made on our Helmi joint venture, also at least the eastern edge of it, is quite close to the border. So there's compelling logic for cooperation between the companies, and although it hasn't been formalized, and who knows, perhaps it will be someday, we are working together cooperatively, doing environmental studies, bird studies, that kind of thing. So B2, I think, is working to find the edges of this thing, and that could take quite some time, and I think that's a good thing. Obviously, the initial footprint of mineralization they had was about 2 kilometers. That's about 3 times the strike length of Ikkari. It's only half as wide, though, and it's running about 1.5 grams so far, whereas Ikkari runs 2.5 grams. But the strike length, we think, is portentous of good things to come. kilometer further down the line now, they just hit 6 meters of 6 grams gold and 1.8% copper. So that's quite interesting. There's an old mine called Satapora, about 70 kilometers down the Sirkka Shear zone, that was a really nice copper gold mine for Campo. It was never fully mined out, open to depth and open along strike. So we're excited about the potential, and I think that B2 is just going to keep going to the west, and we think they'll find more.
And then as the Sirkka Shear zone that comes up creates these basins, and you're looking on the edge, you're finding the same stuff on the Risti side. So this is quite a few kilometers away, not only from Helmi, but also from Ikkari, that you're seeing the same sort of brecciated, deformed ultramafics with similar alteration and now grade.
It's very exciting. So that basin, of course, has margins on both sides. And the lower margin of the basin comes onto our 100% owned Risti ground, and at Caraselca we recently released 56 meters of 2.4 grams. We had released the hole in part about 2 weeks earlier, which was a bit unfortunate. We didn't realize how continuous that zone was going to be. And of course, at 35 meters, there's 7.5 meters of 1.5 grams, and the hole ends in mineralization down at the bottom as well, and it looks exactly like Helmi, and it looks exactly like Ikkari. And I think when I spoke of our programs finally bearing fruit, this is what I'm talking about. We felt there had to be quote unquote Ikkari-style mineralization on our own property, and now we're starting to see it.
So in terms of like workflow, let's say catalysts, and are you funded to deliver this? Because I know you've also got another joint venture that doesn't get talked about because I guess it took longer to get going, was the Kinross one, further to the north, closer to the Kittilä mine operated by Agnico. So what should anybody expect here for 6 to 12 months coming from Aurion Resources?
Yes, so we'll get back on this exciting what I hope is a new discovery in about a month's time. Our drills are currently active. We contract all the drills because we're willing to contract for a year at a time. And so we get drills for both B2 and Kinross. All the drills are working on the swampy, frozen areas on the joint venture at the moment. In about another month's time.
On the B2Gold joint venture.
Correct, yeah. In another month's time, we'll get finally back to these exciting new holes at Caraselca on our 100% owned ground. And in the meantime, we'll continue to see results coming from B2's work on Helmi.
So where's Kinross? Like, where do you think that they'll be starting to drill? Are they close?
I think it's taken some time up there, and I believe they'll be drilling in the next 2 months. So that's brand new stuff. We have no idea what's going to come out of that. Obviously, we're excited.
And you know, given the financing market right now, which is kind of shaky for juniors, I guess, how well are you funded to deliver this?
Yeah, so we're coming into the year end with about 12 million of working capital, which gets us funded to the end of the year. So we're in pretty good shape.
Because you're like a 70-30 joint venture on the B2
Correct.
ground.
Yeah, we're contributing there, and I think our stance on that has been. Assuming that perhaps one day there's consolidation in the camp, we should maintain maximum ownership in that. I think that's the right thing to do.
All right. Okay. Dave?
Joe, great to see you again.
Chairman, Aurion Resources, finding new gold projects and discoveries up in Finland that look very similar to the Ikkari deposit, which has got about 3.9 million ounces. Finland's very well endowed with not only metal, but also infrastructure. And so that's it from me. Joe Mazumdar, Exploration Insights at the pre-PDAT version of the Metals Investment Forum in Toronto. Thank you very much for listening.